911.
A son had OD'd, and unanimous over here.
Okay, what did he take?
Okay. Probably heroin.
Do you want to live? Then you got to stop heroin.
Yes, ma'am. I think there's a girl here ODing on heroin.
Does she have a needle in her arm?
Yes, she does.
These are actual 911 calls made to the Evansville-Vanderburgh County Dispatch Center.
It just seems like they're getting more and more.
Dispatcher Carrie James is the person oftentimes at the other end of one of those calls for help.
Sometimes it's the mother who's hysterical, or sometimes it's the small child who's found mom or dad, so you have to listen to that and try to keep your emotions in check.
Wake up, come on.
This is body cam video from one of those runs obtained by Eyewitness News that shows what first responders in the tri-state face more and more.
We just administered another dose of Narcan.
This call placed to 911 was for a woman down at Kids Kingdom, a children's playground on the Evansville riverfront.
Now when we get people down, the first thought through our mind is usually, well, it could be heroin.
Wake up, come on. Sam 230, her eyes are starting to open, but she's still out of it.
Officers Dylan Powers and Arnie Yunker were the first to arrive on the scene. We rode along with the officers as they described the heartbreak they faced that day.
Well, when we got there, she was laying on her back. Her face was blue. She wasn't breathing.
The officers say they knew this was a drug overdose and immediately administered 3 doses of Narcan,
I'll put another one in.
a medicine used to block the effect of opioids.
Seeing somebody not breathing, face blue, because of this, just the number of doses you administered is pretty horrifying.
But even more horrifying to these officers is the number of times this is happening now and who it's happening to.
We've found them in bedrooms, we found them in playgrounds. A friend of mine that I grew up with and played sports with, we got sent to an overdose around him, and he was a great athlete, great kid, and it doesn't discriminate.
So we have a narcotics epidemic. We have a heroin epidemic.
Monty Ginnon with the Evansville Police Department says, unfortunately, runs like this are becoming the norm more than the exception.
It just becomes routine, like you're driving to work. Where I'm driving to work, I go the same way to work every day. Oh, I got an overdose run. I'm going to another overdose run, and the shock value is wearing off, and when the shock value wears off, that's a problem.
The problem, Ginnon says, is that opioids are so strong, so addictive, that once a person starts abusing them, the harder it is to stop. For some, that addiction starts with a simple painkiller prescription from a doctor. Oftentimes after minor surgery, sometimes after major surgery. And once those pills run out, for some people, they will then run out to find a new way to get that high.
My guess is we had most of these people already who were hooked on opioids, but they were in the painkiller pill form, and now that they're having a very difficult time getting that, they've turned to heroin.
And Ginnon says as long as there's a demand for heroin on the streets, there's going to be a supply for it. It's finding that supply that's challenging for police.
You start with your WEHT tips, you start with information from a person who is arrested, and then you try to work that up to where you can get to some people who are bringing in some bigger and larger sources.
And once those sources are found, Ginnon says the suppliers have to be severely punished. But until those sources are found and those suppliers are punished, Ginnon says this will continue to be a community-wide problem, and those calls for help will continue to come in here, the Evansville-Vanderburgh County Dispatch Center.
So the more we can make the community aware, maybe the more we can catch the people that are selling the stuff and, get rid of the problem.
I found out that I couldn't trust myself. So I had to learn through trial and hardship that I can trust God.
Gary Price's journey with drugs began and ended on the streets of Evansville. He started smoking pot at the age of 11. Shortly after, he started drinking beer, lots of beer. Like his father, he became an alcoholic. He had an apartment, but not much else. That apartment did not even have power, and he didn't have a car to get around. Gary Price decided he needed help and turned to Stepping Stones Recovery Center to help him battle his addictions. But even then, he felt he needed more.
Enoch walked with God.
So he walked. He walked from Stepping Stones to the McDonald's on Lincoln Avenue for a 6 a.m. Bible study class.
But the truth is, we need loving people to stand with us, and especially when we fall down, and the church has to be involved.
Bethel Church's lead pastor, David Schwambach, oversees the ministry's Celebrate Recovery program, a program that introduces a spiritual component to healing.
They've put around themselves relationships that have added, I'm going to say, encouragement, and they've really embraced the faith-based community.
Today, Gary and his wife, Carla, serve as leaders in the program, helping others just like themselves who are battling addictions.
I'm joyful now. I'm fulfilled now. I have love, I have joy, I have peace. I have people around me that love me, and it transformed my life.
I started getting high, and by getting high, I started breaking the law. By breaking the law, I started stealing, started selling drugs again. I started hanging out with all the wrong people.
Evansville native Anthony Burris is serving a 9-year prison sentence at the Branchville Correctional Facility in Perry County. That's on top of the 17 years he's already spent locked up for various offenses. At the age of 39, Burris says he made a promise to himself, the last time he got out of jail, to become a better person. He broke that promise just days later when a trip to the gas station for a pack of cigarettes led to a chance meeting with old friends and an old addiction.
Those old friends offered me some drugs, and I was off to the races after that.
Burris says not only did he once again begin giving into his cravings and taking those drugs every day,
Feeling like I needed it, I had to have it.
But he began selling them too, leading some of the people he loved the most to also become under the control of the powerful drug, heroin.
I see a lot of close family members who are addicted to drugs at this time, and it hurts because I feel like some of them addictions might have came from me.
Burris' addiction to heroin grew after he says life became more complicated. When there was a problem, he says heroin was always there to numb the pain.
At the time, I thought I was helping myself with just solving one problem, but in all actuality, I was creating 1,000 more.
I thought I had my addiction under control. I was naive to the fact of how fast it could suck me back in.
Like Burris, Brian Leap is back in jail, this time serving a 20-year sentence after a repeat affair with drugs.
I'm here for dealing heroin.
Leap is from Scott County, Indiana, a community thrown into the national spotlight for its rampant heroin use and HIV epidemic. That led to the county offering a free needle exchange program for its many heroin users.
Looking back now, I realize that I was probably the main cause that most people were on it.
Like many heroin users, Leap's addiction to the drug began shortly after he started abusing prescription pain pills.
In Scott County, it was it's from the Lortabs to the Percocets to the Oxycontin to the Opana, then to heroin. Some people took methadone, going to the methadone clinic. But it all snowballed into heroin, and before you know it, the whole town is on heroin.
Because almost everyone he knew in his small community was using heroin, Leap says it seemed normal. In his mind, he says he wasn't doing anything wrong by offering it up for sale.
I always thought that I had good morals and values, that I wasn't selling to kids, that I wasn't selling to pregnant women, and I would tell myself things. It was my mind tricking me, telling me that it was okay to be doing the things that I was doing.
Today, while serving out their sentences in Branchville, both Leap and Burris have taken part in religious prison ministries. And from that, they say, they're learning how to live their lives drug-free. For Leap, he wants to now set a positive example for his 5 children. For Burris,
and I feel like that I'm giving my mom the greatest gift I could possibly ever give her, and that's by beating this drug addiction.